Hey everybody, Patty Ann here. Hang on just a second. Several people had asked how did I take Aaron's artwork from back in the day, which you see here on the left, and change it into this cute shirt that I love wearing on the right. It's really easy. First of all, you have to be really careful about the type of artwork that you choose. The best stuff to use is something that has thick black outlines, kind of like his does, in a marker. If by any chance yours doesn't have thick black outlines, what I have done with my daughter's artwork is to take a picture of it or print it, and then I go over her outlines with a black magic Sharpie. So I don't ruin her original artwork. I just make dark outlines because she had a lighter, more delicate hand than Aaron did on his that he made here. So the first thing that I did was I just took a photograph like this with my phone, and I just uploaded it into Silhouette. Now you can do this in the basic edition because that's what I have open right now. So I'm going to move these two things out of the way, kind of hide them so they don't distract us. And here's what we have to begin with. Okay, so the first thing that I did was I just came over here to the knife tool on the lower left, and I clicked on it. And then I just came up here and kind of cut off close to his artwork like that. And that made a slice right there, as you can see. And now I just take and click on the letter V as in Victor key on my keyboard, and notice what that will do up here in the upper left hand side. So right now I have the knife tool selected. When I click the V on my keyboard, it automatically grabs the select button for me, or arrow, and I can select this, select this piece and grab it and take it away. So I can see what happened right here. Let me show you in case this ever happens to you. Look at, my knife tool didn't go all the way up at the top, so I didn't actually slice a piece out. So let me try that again. So I'm going to get my knife tool again, and I'm going to come here and slice. I started up above, do you notice? Look, I started well up above and I went all the way down through, and I actually got a little tiny bit of his finger this time, so I'm going to do Control Z and get rid of that and try one last time. The third time better be the charm. So I'm going to go like this and scroll down here. Don't get his finger. Right like that, so I get all the way out, and that drew that line from this top part all the way to the bottom, and it made a slice. Now I'm going to click on the V on my keyboard again to get that tool that I need. Click here, and I better be able to drag this away, sure enough, and I can hit delete on my keyboard. So I'm going to do that again. As you see my little thumb right here, that's where I'm holding it for my photo that I took with my camera. But I'm going to get the knife tool again. I'm just going to slice right down here again. Don't get his fingers. There it is. Hit the V, or grab the select arrow up here, drag that away, click on it to highlight it so there's a box around it, and then hit delete on my keyboard. And I'm just going to keep doing that on the other two sides. And I'm going to do one last one. Okay, so this is what we have left, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to trace it. So I come over here to the trace tool on the right hand side. To me it looks like a piece of toast. Others say it looks like a butterfly. Click on it and this panel will open up, and then I'm going to say select trace area, and I'm just going to draw a box around the part that I want to trace. It's like that. And notice it comes in pretty good, except for there's a lot of extra stuff right here. So I'm thinking if I lower my threshold, that will go away. So let me lower my threshold a bit. Okay, that's going away, but let's look up here, get the little bug tool, the little zoom tool, and zoom in. And now when I made the trace tool that light, or I'm sorry, the threshold, I have a lot of gaps in here, right? So I might want to make my threshold go up a little bit more. So I can try to close a few more of those gaps. That's too much. Okay. Whoops, I didn't mean to do that. Okay, I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. So I'm just going to go trace and see what we have. So there he is, and I can just delete this bit now. And I can just make him larger if I want to for now. Or actually, I think I'll hit Control Z and make him small, and I'll just zoom in. Like that. Okay. So as you can see, there's some junk I need to get rid of on him. There's a lot of extra stuff in his belly. I don't want every single one of these little pieces cutting out. So let me show you what I mean. Let me zoom in here. Each one of these little tiny pieces is going to cut out unless I get rid of them, and that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to double click to get to the node editing feature, and boy, there's just way too many nodes right here. But you'll notice when I double click, this panel came open over here, and I can click on Simplify. When I click on Simplify, you'll notice that a lot of those nodes will disappear. That makes it a lot more manageable. Not totally gone, but much better. So now what I can do is hold down my click on the nodes again to get them. Hold down my Shift key and just grab a bunch of them. And when I grab all these, they're actually going to be deleted when I hit delete on my keyboard. So I can get rid of all those nodes so all that won't cut out. I can hold my mouse down again, or my Shift key, and grab some more and just hit delete. So I want to leave a nice portion in here, but not these little tiny guys. So again, hold down my Shift key and grab a bunch, all these little tiny guys here, and delete. And you will just continue doing this, getting rid of whatever you don't think is necessary to cut. Like all of these little pieces, whoops, I got to get my node editing back. All these little pieces over here, I don't think they're necessary. They're not going to make or break my image. So I can just delete them. Now what I've done is I've come up here to the top and used this little tool that looks like a bug to me, the zoom tool, and I zoomed way in so that I could see what I'm deleting more easily. This large piece right here I'm going to leave, as well as this large piece, but a lot of these other tiny pieces that would be cut out of vinyl, they're not necessary. So again, I'm just going to continue to hold down my Shift key and just grab a bunch of these whoops, I let go of my Shift key. Hold down my Shift key and grab a bunch of these at one time and just hit delete on my keyboard. I don't need all of those things cutting out, and they won't make a difference in my image. So here's a nice large piece, but it has these little pieces inside that I don't need. Shift key, grab these and delete. Shift, grab these and delete. So again, I'm just going to continue on, and I will meet you back here shortly. Just Shift key, drag, and delete. Okay, I've gotten pretty far along, and what I've done now is I've come up here to where it says Object at the very top up here. Object, and I said Release Compound Path. And what that did was made each one of these little pieces into its own little entity. So now instead of having to worry about the nodes, I can just go around and click this and delete on my keyboard so that it's a little bit quicker now. Just have to make sure I get what I'm looking for. So I'll just go around here and start clicking on some of these little pieces, like that one, don't need. These little tiny pieces, we don't need to cut those out of vinyl at all. So I can just go around here and click on these and delete them, just hitting delete on my keyboard and deleting these little pieces. And again, I'll just continue to do this for a bit, and I'll be back to show you something else that I want to do. As a matter of fact, maybe I'll show you now, and then I'll just continue on my own, deleting these little tiny pieces that I don't need. The other thing I wanted to show you though was, notice all these jaggedy edges right here. Well, here's a piece to delete. These jagged edges right here. My cutter is going to be cut like that. Let me scroll in for you. So what I can do instead of this is I can smooth some of this out because I don't think it's really necessary to be like that, and it'll be easier for my machine. So again, I can double click on this to get to the nodes. So we have, if you'll notice, a node right here. Let's see if I can, and then there's one at the valley and there's one up here. If I click on the one in the valley so that it has a little square around it, right click and say delete point. Did you see what that did? It no longer goes in the valley. It just goes from this point to this point. Here's another valley. Let's get rid of that one. Let's double click on this. Notice that this is got a little square right there, and that means that's the node we're working on. I'm going to right click on it and say delete point, and watch what's going to happen. The valley is going to just disappear. Boom, just like that. So we can go around and we can adjust things like this if they're too sharp of a curve, or if we just think it's too much for our machine to have to cut. Here's another one. This is a mountain kind of, right? It goes up a hill like that. Let's just double click on this to get the nodes. Here's the mountain one, and here's the one before it and after it. When I click on this one to highlight it and turn it white, and I say delete point, it's going to go right like that and kind of delete that really sharp point. There's a lot more that you can learn about nodes. We had a whole hour-long class on adjusting nodes in patreon.com/PattyAnn. And you know, it's a really a fun place to get together and to learn, and it's only $5 a month for 5 classes, and it's well worth it, I think. Ask the patrons who are there whether they think the classes are worth it. But anyway, so I'm going to click on this right here. And when I do, here's the 2 nodes that are before it. So what's going to happen is this whole little loop here is going to be gone, and these 2 are going to be attached together. So when I click on that to highlight it, notice it turns into a little white box. I'm going to right click and say delete point, and there you go. Okay, there's still a little kookiness here, so let's delete this point as well. Right click, delete point. Okay, that's better. But I could still, if I wanted to, get rid of this really pointy point by clicking, let's see, maybe this one. Delete point. Yeah, there we go. So, like I said, I'm just going to continue through here looking for points that I think I want to delete because I don't want to make this too terribly hard for my machine. Here's something else. Look at that little piece. That doesn't need to be cut out. Click on that and just delete it. Or, let me undo that. Since I'm in the node editing right now, I would need to hold my shift key down and drag up across it. Well, it went back to the selection tool, so now I can just hit delete on my keyboard. Let me zoom out and let's look and see what we've got going on here. A little too small. Okay, he's looking pretty good. Notice right here in his hand, there are some little tiny pieces I want to get rid of. I don't need that much vinyl cutting out, right? These pieces don't need to be cut. So delete, 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 maybe delete, I think. Yep. And this here, I'll want to smooth that out with the point editing. And let's see. I think what I did in my original ones was I also did some point editing like this. And what I did was I dragged on the points to make his legs a little bit wider so that they're not quite as skinny of a piece cutting out. So right here, there's some stuff I can delete. And there's another one right there. So I can actually add a point here, I guess. Can add one right here. Whoops, right here. There, that added a point, and then I could just actually almost make it come all the way up to his body like this. Just dragging them up. Okay, that's pretty good. Now this has got a strange point right here that doesn't need to be there, right? Look at that point. So I can just double click on this point, turn it into a white point, and delete it. And then it's totally gone, except for I see a little tiny bit of it left. So I'm going to delete this point. And this just takes practice. Like I said, we had fun practicing on images, in our class the other day. So I'm going to make these thicker too, a little thicker legs, just so that's a little bit thicker vinyl to cut. This looks perfect though. Other than that, looks like there's some little scraps down here I don't need to cut. And so this is looking really good. There's a piece right here I don't need to cut. You'll just have to scroll in. Now I see some pieces here in his head. When you scroll in, you can see them as well, I'm sure. Just click on them and delete. Every once in a while, I think one of the points is something, and that's just a piece of dirt on my screen. So here again, this is another point. I don't really need my machine to do all those, mountains like that. So I'm going to grab this first one, and when I turn it into a black outlined white square, I can delete the point and it's gone. Same thing with this one. Double click to get to the node editing or point editing. See how it's a white one? I'm going to right click on it and say delete point, and it flattens it out much better. So you can just continue on doing this and then meet me back here shortly. Okay, I'm just about done with this little guy, but you might be wondering, how can I tell if there's a bunch of little scraps left anywhere? What I like to do is, since I released the compound path and every one of these pieces it's an individual piece, if I just highlight it like this, I can see some stray squares that look like they're not really needed. Like, look at this one right here. See that little square? That's around something that I don't really need, right? Click out, click back on there, and I can just delete it. So, don't remember if there were any others. I think I'll delete that one and that. I don't think they're necessary. This thing right here, I don't really like this little extra jaggedy line here. So I'm going to get rid of that node right there by right click on it, right click and say delete it. There we go. And I could do the same here. Delete point. Okay, there's still a point there, so I could do that again. Delete point. And that's pretty good. Okay, I see something funny right here. See that little line? Delete. So you just have to kind of keep looking over it for a little while. It's actually kind of relaxing. It's just time consuming, and I could, even this out if I wanted to. Again, with the point editing. And again, if you want to learn more about point editing, join us at our Patreon classes. They're a lot of fun. Every Saturday at 10 o'clock from 10 to 11. If you can't join us then, not to worry, because I always record them, and then you can watch them later. It's only $5 a month, and you get 5 classes. All right, I'm going to scroll back in or out one more time and take a look. I think he's looking really good, except for I see a few little spots right here in his belly that I want to check into. So I'm going to scroll into there. And they look better than I thought, but I'm going to delete this point right here because I think that's a sharp curve that doesn't need to be done, as well as that one. Delete point. There, that makes it much rounder. And this right here, I don't think that needs to be done. Delete that. And I'll delete this one too. And that makes it a little rounder and easier for my machine to cut. So that's pretty much it. All I did now was I highlighted the whole thing and I just changed it, and I made mine actually a navy blue color of flock, just like this. And let me make his nose the same color because it's not attached. And I cut him out. Oh, we got to do his legs too. Now, if you're using a Cricut machine, you'll need to go to File and save this as an SVG file. If you have a Cameo, see if there's any, see these junky things right here? I still might want to go in and fix a few of these so my machine doesn't have to cut that much, because I don't really think those jaggedy edges are necessary. Change that like that. Okay, so now all I would do is go to Send. And of course, let me go back one time for a second and let me group all of this. Object, group. Okay, and then the next thing I will do is just go ahead and go to send and put this on my mat. And of course I would have needed to resize it so it would fit on my mat. So let me go back one more time and let me come up here and find the mat. I'm using a regular cutting mat, a Cameo 12 by 12. And so what's wrong is I had made a page size smaller because I was using a letter size. So I'm going to change that now to automatic Cameo. Now I can make him fit just like that. And I will go to send. And right now it's set to cut the outer edge. But what I really wanted to do is I wanted to cut everything just like that. So I changed it to cut. If I have it on cut outer edge, it's just going to cut the outer edge of everything. But I wanted to cut even these parts in here so the t-shirt will show through in that part. So then I would just change it to, well, actually what I used yesterday was heat transfer flocked. And I did a test, of course, because I always do a test first. Then I cut it. But one other thing I did on mine was I put text. And of course, since I'm using a HTV or a heat transfer vinyl, I would make sure to mirror it. So to mirror it in this software, and of course you can do this over in Cricut Design Space, but to mirror it here, what I would do is go to this replicate panel and I would mirror it to the right, and that's going to make another one. So I could get rid of him. And here's the mirrored version, and then I would make it. So that's it. I hope this helps. Remember, the most important thing to do is try to get your child, when they're making you a drawing for this, to use maybe a black magic marker. Probably even one of the washable ones would work. Black marker on white paper, and just try a few of them, and I'd love to see what you guys create. If you could join us at either Cutting Up with Patty Ann, and I'll have the links below, or if you decide to join us at Patreon and you do it at the $5 level, you'll also be able to join our private group on Facebook, and you could put your images there and ask questions. So again, thanks for joining me. Please give me a thumbs up if you like my videos and share them, and I guess that's it. Thanks again. Bye-bye.